Let's move on to this conversation now. On the line with spokesperson and Resource Mobilization Chair, former county coordinator, Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, Cletus Suhfree. We're talking about the Cameroon elections. 81 candidates hoping to run against the world's oldest President Paul Biya. Cameroon bracing for one of the most contested elections in recent memory. 81 candidates throwing their names into the hat for the presidential vote scheduled for October. This, of course, under the rule of Paul Biya since 1982, who has become the epitome of, dictatorship in Africa for over 4 decades. Biya has systematically changed the country's constitution, eroding all democratic institutions and the rule of law. Spokesperson and Resource Mobilization Chair, former county coordinator, Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, Cletus Suhfree, is talking to us on the upcoming elections and President Paul Biya's rule over Cameroon for over 4 decades. Cletus, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for making time. Truly appreciate that. I think, Cletus, let's start with Paul Biya. At 92, is he still fit enough to run for presidency?
Well, it is a shame. It is unfortunate that we have a president who is a dictator, and for over 4 decades, this chap was in power before we were even born, and by the time we are already passing 4 decades. Personally, I am more than 45 years old, but he's still in power. So Paul Biya is not just a dictator, but it is a typical shame for for my country, Cameroon, and of course for Africa. You should realize that Paul Biya did not just take over power from 1982, but he has been in the presidency from the prime minister position to the secretary general position before he finally became president. So for him, standing now to run again, it is a slap in the face of democracy. It's a slap in the face of every Cameroonian, every African, and of course, no matter what we have done, things is being defended and backed by France, because you understand that Cameroon, like 14 other African countries, the Francophone African countries, have been tied under the web of colonialism. These countries never had independence. They were given a paper to sign under military duress that said you will have independence, but you will still be under the control of France. Our money is printed from France. Our passports are printed from France. Our economy is controlled by France. The presidents are appointed and forced into power and protected by France. So much so that, on the other hand, the population, that's why you have Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, who have decided militarily to cut off. And so the position of Cameroon is dire. It is bad. It is more than bad. It is terrible. And we are in a position where the country has collapsed economically, financially, socio-culturally, and it is there. It is worse. And so for President Paul Biya, at this age, to stand again in power has really, really, really spoken that he is not just doing it by himself, he is having France yet again to stand behind him and destroy the country completely.
I mean, just on that, Cletus, I mean, those, as you say, who are pushing for his presidency, do they still have faith in him at the age of 92, that he will still push whatever agenda that they are pushing?
unfortunately, nobody has faith in this dictator. It is unfortunate that he has been there. People thought he would change. He hasn't changed. He's been there for more than 4 decades, as we've said. But even him, at times, we would think he would take the bulls by the horn to say, I am stepping down, I'm old, but he's not doing so. And why is he not doing so? Because the master behind the dictatorship, just like I said before, in the Francophone Africa, is France. And so France is part and parcel of destroying the Francophone Africa side of the continent, and they are protecting dictators. You must also realize that this benefits France and this benefits the military. Cameroon is now controlled by the military, and the president has even no power. So it is a military state as we speak. And so for over all these decades, 90%, if not more, do not support the presidency of Biya and his party, the CPDM, the Cameroon People Democratic Movement. But because the system has completely collapsed democratically, we are forced to see what is happening. And we hope the international community that has always failed the country for 4 decades, and the African Union, which is on its own part a shadow of himself, do not want to support the voices of the 90% who say, we want a new candidate, we want new candidates that are standing up. Remember that Cameroon has more than 300 different parties, including the Social Democratic Front, the SDF. You have other younger candidates that have put in their neck. You have like Gabriel Libby, who is a 42-year-old, a leader of the Cameroon People's Congress. You have a 40-year-old young man who is Sajak Fonyu, who has emerged as an activist, transparency, and anti-corruption, but they don't have a say. We have Joshua O.C. of the Social Democratic Front of Cameroon, who is in the 50s, and you have Maurice Kamto, who is the leader of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, and amongst others. So these are candidates who have shown that they can come in and help the country. But unfortunately, Cameroon is not being controlled by Paul Biya. It is under the barrel of the gun by the French. That is how things look.
You speak about some of the candidates, Cletus. 81 candidates. I mean, is this not too much? Does this not spread thinly in terms of how people should vote, or is it common in Cameroon to see so many people vying for the position of presidency?
Well, thank you very much. That's a very, very brilliant question. You have to understand that within the dynamics of the political dispensation of Cameroon, most of these parties have even put in there to come in to show the world that there is a democracy. But unfortunately, these parties are a front for the ruling party itself, the CPDM. So you do realize that some of these parties are even funded by the ruling party, the CPDM. And so they go in there with no chance at all of ever making it. And like I said before, there are less than 5 candidates who truly are opposition parties. And these 5 candidates, they sometimes get into coalition. I can remember in the 1990s when the Social Democratic Front, led by the late Neil John Funde, whose replacement, the vice president now, who is Joshua Osei, has done everything to make sure that there's a coalition within the Social Democratic Front and some few parties. But unfortunately, these moves are being thwarted, and because the CPDM, which is the Paul Biya's party, under the auspices of the French barrel of the gun, remember I said the French control virtually everything about the country. So it makes these parties unable, and they will never win the ruling CPDM. So that is the situation of Cameroon as we speak. Just to say, this has already caused violence in the country. You must know that in 2016, the peoples of the southern Cameroons, that is the northwest and the southwest, the English-speaking part of the country, took over arms because it became a point where they could not bear it anymore. Because the history of the country is a complex way because of colonialism. Remember, Cameroon was colonized partly by Britain and the French. So during independence in the 1960s, the British and the French, under the auspices of the Berlin West African Conference and the colonial mentality, they divided the country like a cake. And they gave southern Cameroons to the part of the French Cameroons. Meanwhile, it was governed under Nigeria. So these are some of the colonial mistakes where you find the people of like Basotho and South Africa who are one people, but now they are joined. You take Basotho and you join them with Uganda, for example. And so the people of Basotho say, no, we are people of Soto, we are not Ugandans. So you understand a situation like that where the southern Cameroonians who were ruled under Nigeria are now tongued with the French Cameroon originally. So this situation now becomes a problem where the people of southern Cameroon, English by origin, who have a different constitution altogether, they have a different legal system, they have a common law versus the French law on the other side. So in 2016, the southern Cameroons took up arms because they could not muster it anymore. Because the French system kept hitting on not only the culture, it was like a black-on-black appetite. So within this dispensation, we find where the situation is with thousands of people languishing in jail from the English side, and you have also hundreds of people, political activists, who are supposed to be better candidates, who are in jail. So as we speak, it is a dire situation in Cameroon, and we just hope for a miracle that will never happen.
Just finally then, Cletus, does it look like Paul Biya will win again? Or is there any strong candidate?
As we speak, Paul Biya has already won. Because unfortunately, the elections are controlled by what you call an election observatory, which is called ELECAM. You call the Election Commission of Cameroon. But this control, the people who control the elections, like unlike what is happening in South Africa and the rest of real democracy, is masterminded by members of the CPD, the ruling party, who are pro-Biya. And so you realize that the commission that looks for the elections to be transparent are part of the ruling party. They are not transparent. They are not independent. So it begs the saying, and it goes without saying that as we speak, Paul Biya has already won, because if the commission that looks for the elections, that makes sure it is transparent, it is free and fair, the media is not even allowed to say some of the things, and the legislature is powerless, the judiciary has been muscled, the security apparatus of Cameroon is more of a military state than a civilian state, where civilians are tried in the military court when they want to oppose the ruling system. So as we speak, as a Cameroonian and a southern Cameroonian, as an African who have seen it, who have read it, who have studied it, who have moved away from it, I can simply tell you there is no elections that is going to be fair and fair. But we do hope that a miracle can happen, and maybe that miracle is going to be the international community, South Africa, that is a role model for democracy, to be able to step in and say, look, we don't know why we have a 92-year-old, almost, this guy is older than the atomic bomb. The president of Cameroon is older than Google. He's older than the internet. And of course, he's older than the United Nations. But yet, the world stands and watch him run again in power. And so when the economic and the political factor pushes in, and you've got immigrants that flooding out of the country into South Africa, because we have more than 2,000 refugees from southern Cameroon and Cameroon that are in South Africa and in SADC, and more than 1 million to 3 million that are all over the world, because they cannot stomach the heat. When you stand up, you're either incarcerated, you are sodomized, or you are eliminated.
Okay.
So we hope for a miracle, and we hope that the international community will come through for us and save this very disgraceful, very backward, and very, 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 what can I say, a dictator in our lifetime.
Cletus, Monfray, merci beaucoup. C'est
Merci,
bien de te parler.
and thank you so much. I look forward for more discussion.
We'll have the next conversation. We'll talk about exactly that. What can the international community do? But unfortunately, we are out of time. But as I say, c'est bien de te parler.
Merci.
Enchanté,
Au revoir.
Yeah. Cletus Suhfree, political analyst and researcher.